Hi, my name is Sydney Griffith, and this is my Assessment 1 Collaboration and Leadership Reflection video for Nursing 410 class. I've worked in the hospital setting for the last 5 years as a neonatal ICU registered nurse. I typically care for critically ill infants under the age of 12 months. I started travel nursing last August and was placed at Brenner's Children's Hospital in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It is a 96-bed unit. I was notified prior to my assignment that I may be required to float to other units, which I was fine with. Floating is where the hospital will take you from your home unit that may have extra staff that night and place you into a unit that is short-staffed for the night. There was a day that I had showed up for work and seen my name on the list to float to pediatric HEMOC unit. I wasn't sure what a HEMOC unit was, but given the word it had pediatric in it, I felt comfortable going there. Once I arrived to the unit, I was completely lost and quickly realized it is not like the other pediatric units I had floated to at my other facilities. This was a patient population that I had never cared for during my entire nursing career, and the nurse's role was much different than my own. The Association of Pediatric Nurses defines the role of a pediatric hematology nurse as follows. The HEMOC oncology nurse is responsible for delivering care to pediatric patients who are receiving cancer treatment. Specific responsibilities include preparing and administering chemotherapy, administering palliative treatment, and collaborating with other members of the healthcare team. In my past nursing role, I've only been responsible for taking care of patients under the age of 1. Although I have done palliative care, I have not done anything with chemotherapy or been trained properly to administer chemotherapy. So I was a little bit uncomfortable for the safety of my patient because I had never did that. I did not feel comfortable doing this on my own. So I approached the charge nurse, Becky, and explained that the concerns I have. Becky replied to me and said, "Oh, please, I talked to your charge nurse, and with the experience you have, you'll do just fine here. I know you NICU nurses don't like to float, but too bad." I was speechless. It wasn't that I was upset I had to float or was wanting, to go back to my unit. I just felt uncomfortable because any other time I've been sent to a pediatric unit, it was babies that I took care of. I had never been trained to do what they wanted me to do this shift. I felt it was best to contact my charge nurse in the NICU and tell her what was going on. Danielle, the charge nurse in the NICU, completely busted out laughing on the phone, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I have made a huge mistake. I'm so sorry, but we have you and the other travel nurse swapped assignments for the night." She said, "You are Sydney Griffith, right?" I said, "Yes." She said, "You are supposed to be in the newborn nursery, and Katie is supposed to be in the HEMOC unit because she has worked as a HEMOC nurse for 5 years prior to coming to NICU." She said, "I am so sorry, let's get this fixed." So I talked to Becky again and told her the situation, and she was just shocked. She's like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I thought you were the one who had the 5 years of experience." And we ended up being able to switch off and me go to the nursery and Katie come to the HEMOC unit, but all of this probably took an hour. So we were both behind in our units, and our patient care was delayed due to the mix-up. In some aspects, I feel like my team and I collaborated well. I maintained a positive attitude when I was required to float somewhere that was unfamiliar to me, and I tried to give it a chance. On the other hand, there were a couple things I feel like we could have done differently. To start, I feel like the two charge nurses, Danielle and Becky, could have had better communication with each other. I feel like Danielle first should have double-checked the assignments first to make sure it was appropriate for each given nurse. think that Becky should have confirmed too that I was the right person who was supposed to be in their unit. The miscommunication caused a delay in both mine and the other travelers' patient care, as we were spending a lot of time trying to figure out who needs to go where. Also, I feel like it was a little inappropriate, although I like Danielle, to laugh when I called her because she just kind of thought it was a funny mix-up, but it was honestly a serious mix-up. Something could have really gone wrong if I continued to try to care for these patients and do something that I had never done before and that I wasn't trained to do. I think that the two charge nurses, if communicated better, would have prevented this problem from happening. As far as the VILA health activity, as I was speaking to the employees at Clarion Court about their take on HealthX, their newly introduced EHR system, I was very impressed with the employees' open communication. Everyone was willing to give me their opinion on the system and talk about how hard of an adjustment it has been to engage in a software that no one is familiar with yet. To be comfortable enough to talk about your feelings in the workplace is a huge step. I can tell that the employees at Clarion all care about the safety of their patients and share the common goal of trying to get to do their patient care effectively. There were, however, many ways that the interdisciplinary teams did not effectively communicate or collaborate with each other. Stephen, the administrator at Clarion, felt that his concerns weren't addressed at corporate level. This in turn made him understandably frustrated, but he was frustrated at the wrong people. He expressed his hatred towards the implementation coach, who truly was sent to Clarion just to do his trained job. Josh is solely responsible for helping staff understand company software and how to use it effectively. Stephen should have expressed his concerns to corporate instead of just saying bad things about Josh and taking it out on Josh. Elise, on the other hand, went into the situation with a positive mindset and understanding that every system has its own quirks. It may have helped Stephen if Elise would have shared that positivity with him. IT manager Chad is feeling very unappreciated and feels that the EHR system should have been planned better. But like Stephen, he isn't very open-minded to the implementation coach. He did the wrong thing by telling his staff that he's okay with them doing the minimum that they have to do and nothing more. He tries to express how dangerous blindly going into an EHR system is to patients, but he kind of uses the wrong words to describe his fear of patients not being saved. He says, "Well, I'm glad nobody died because of it." Well, there's a different way of wording things, and that's not the most appropriate word uses when describing patient death and safety. The nursing staff seem to be battling against each other instead of working together. In order for the teams to work well, the team must be working as a team. They all seem to be used to their old EHR system, which is understandable, but they seem a little reluctant to ask for help from IT when they're struggling. The nurses need to help each other as much as possible and express their questions to IT when they cannot figure out something on the new EHR. As a whole, the lack of open mind from the teams causes issues in patient safety. The EHR is intended to be an updated medication administration system to lessen medication errors. If our patients aren't safe, this leads to more lawsuits that could lead to more debt and financial strain with Clarion Court. The Center of Creative Leadership defines a leadership strategy as a map that aligns investments in leadership development with the strategy, goals, and aspiration of the business. To influence effective collaboration between employees, they must have someone to look up to. In this specific situation, the best leadership strategy would be to create a positive vision for the employees. If those if those in the leadership role, such as Stephen and Chad, showed more positivity and gave their employees hope that the EHR system will eventually make their jobs run more smoothly, the employees may be more subject to change. The most effective interdisciplinary collaboration best practice would be to consider Kurt Lewis's approach on effective change. According to Hussein and his colleagues, in 1947, Kurt Lewin stated that we need to understand the situation and system as a whole, as well as the component parts that make up the system. This would help because the employees at Clarion do not understand the system. Lewis's model focuses on the need to take away assumptions or negative beliefs in the problem, dislodge or append the beliefs and assumptions of those required to participate in the change, and engage in systematic alterations of the status quo. For example, if we could get rid of the beliefs that the EHR system is only going to cause havoc and no good, it may give us a chance to make us work together. I found several similarities between my personal reflection and the activity. I think in both situations, the main goal was to keep our patients safe. I also think the main problem in both situations was due to a lack of effective communication. I feel like I surprisingly relate to Chad in a sense, especially when it came to feeling like he just wanted to quit because he felt like his feelings weren't being acknowledged. Like the charge nurse who told me, "Oh, you'll do just fine." She didn't want to listen to me say like, "Oh, I haven't done this. I'm not trained to do this." All in all, it takes a village of teamwork and communication to get to a common goal. And for that goal to be achieved, we must communicate and get rid of any negative beliefs. Stay positive. Leadership, collaboration, and reflection practices continue to be studied today and greatly influence how healthcare workers work together.